and welcome to the Business of Being a Virtual Assistant. I'm your host, Tiffany Parson. And first of all, I want to give a shout out to everyone that is a faithful listener of the podcast. And I also want to give a shout out to you if this is your very first time listening or watching. This episode gets posted on YouTube as well as it goes out to Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play, and anywhere else that I may not know about. So I want to give you a shout out if this is your very first time. Now, today's episode, we are going to look at the difference between being a business owner and being an employee when it comes to setting boundaries. I got a question from Katie not too long ago with a question that focused on this topic. And I thought it would be really good to bring it to the podcast because you guys may have a similar question or may be wondering the same thing. Now, here's the gist of it. She's working on her client agreement and she has a client. She's setting up the agreement for them to sign. And she wants to know if she should include boundaries for her business in this client agreement. For example, things like not accepting, telling them not to call her on major national holidays or at 11 o'clock at night, for example. But then her question is, if she does all this stipulation, does that then legally make her more of an employee as far as the federal government is concerned? And I don't know, I'm guessing she is in the US. And I realize there are people that listen from all over the world. So this may be a little different if you're not in the US. And she knows that I'm not a legal professional, but she just wanted to get my thoughts and opinion on it. So this is what I told her. And I want to make sure I get it exact. Okay, first of all, Katie has a long commute. That's when she listens to the podcast. Shout out to you, Katie, and riding on that long commute. I don't know if you're riding or driving, but oh my goodness. It's, I don't know, it looks like it's about an hour every way each day. Cumulative, she says it's 8 to 10 hours every single week. Oh, I cannot imagine. Okay, so this is what I told her when working with clients. Because we are 1099 contractors, they cannot require exact hours like 10 to 4, for example. Otherwise, by law, you should be an employee and they be responsible for taxes. But because we're responsible for our own taxes, insurance, and everything like that, we are business owners. They cannot dictate to us when we come and when we go. Now, we can let them know, of course, but they cannot set the terms for us. Now, this is where I thought, I need to expand on this a little more on the podcast. So I told her, put your business hat on as opposed to an employee and think in terms of hours of operation. Like any other business owner, such as an accountant, doctor, or hair salon owner, it's a way of letting the public know when you're open. We may want an appointment at 11, for example, at the hair salon. You might want a night appointment. Maybe you work third shift. However, if they're closed or not available, we can't get that appointment, right? So if you have a client and they are wanting you to work a set number of hours for, like 10 to 4, then they are in a way taking advantage of the system, right? Because you're a contractor, they're not responsible for your taxes. They're not required to provide you with health insurance, but yet they're dictating to you when you can come and go, and that's not legal. So you put on your business owner hat and you set hours of operation. You can put it in your client agreement or you can put it on your website or you can do both. I would put on there, if you want to put your hours in your client agreement, is that you are closed on national holidays and your business hours are, whatever they are. For me personally, I don't put all that in the client agreement because a lot of the projects that I take on are not specific to hours or anything like that. It's based on a deadline. And so if I'm working with a client, they do a monthly webinar. Well, the webinar has a date and a time, and there's a certain time everything has to be set up and emails sent out and all the things like that. So it's kind of It doesn't matter when I'm open. They've never even asked me what my hours of operation are. I just know when their webinar is. And if they sent me an email on Friday night, I am not obligated to answer an email on Friday night. It's the weekend. Even if I do work on the weekend, I don't share with clients if I'm working on the weekend because that is my personal time. I choose to do a few things on Saturday. It's completely up to you, but this is where it's important for us to separate and really think about if you're having a hard time putting on your business owner hat. This is why I said think about other businesses that you frequent: the hair salon, dry cleaners, your accountant during tax time. Think about the doctor, especially the doctor, because a lot of times doctors' offices are closed. Maybe they close early on Friday. They're definitely not open on the weekend. They tell you to go to the emergency room or urgent care if you need anything during the weekend. And they don't blink when they tell you that. So it's important for us to set boundaries. In my early days of my business, I didn't, I was so excited to have clients and I didn't know. I started setting boundaries when I felt my boundaries were crossed. Like, you don't know. For example, getting a voicemail on my cell phone on a Sunday night, and in the voicemail, the expectation was for me to call them back before Monday. That is when I knew that I immediately need to change my number and not use a personal cell phone. I need to use a Skype number. This is about 10 years ago. And that is also when for that voicemail, then I could tell the business hours then. And then holidays, no, I don't work on holidays. I don't, publicize that I work on holidays. We've got Memorial Day coming up in a couple of weeks. And so I'm not putting anything out about, I'm going to be off for Memorial Day. No. Everybody knows it's Memorial Day, unless they're in another country. But right now I don't have clients in another country. So everybody in the U.S. knows Memorial Day is the last Monday in May. Just like Labor Day will be coming in September, it's the first Monday in September. And I put those two holidays together for some crazy reason, but skipping over the 4th of July. 4th of July is smack dab in the middle of the week. So that's going to be interesting. Some people are doing cookouts the weekend before. Some might be doing it the day of. I'm not sure how it's all going to work. But I'm not putting out a big blast or anything like that I'll be, off for the holiday. Put it on your website, on your contact page. Put your hours on there, and you can say closed on national holidays. That way they know. Or if you don't have a website, include in your agreement so they know. But it's important to really stress. I'm stressing to you. You don't have to stress to your client. But about those hours when you work, they cannot dictate to you when you come and when you go. Just need to have a deadline, how long it's going to take you, and go from there. And if it's a regular thing, then you know when all the stuff has to be done. If you're helping with their podcast, if you're helping post with their social media, you know when all the things need to be done. This is why I love working on projects that don't, there isn't a time constraint. Even when doing email support, it's not a straight 10 to 4. You know certain times of the day when to check it. Morning, before close, in the middle of the day. But you decide based on the client and how many emails they normally get. But in most instances, it does not require you be there for the whole time. Now, some clients do have a lot of emails like that where it does require all day. But in that essence, you know when their business opens and when it closes, and you know what all you have to take care of within that time frame. But again, to say you have to show up at this time and then you have to end at that time, if you're doing that, by law, you're an employee. and the client is pretty much taking advantage of the situation when they're having you do those set hours. And I have, I've done it. I've made exceptions, but it's important that we know what the real deal is for ourselves, and we decide from there. All in all, every day you're going to learn something new about your business. I don't want you to let that stop you from taking on a client. If you can't figure out when your hours are going to be, don't worry about it. Don't put it anywhere. If you're working full time, for example, and your hours really are 7 to 11 at night, then what are you going to do? If your hours are from 7 to 11, that is when you work on your client work, then hey, that's what they are right now because you're also working full time. Then you also want to seek out projects that are not time dependent. You want them to be deadline dependent versus the time. If you have further questions about this, this kind of question will be great to go back and forth. I love, the whole dialogue and being able to talk with you. And there are 2 ways that you can do that. First, make sure you're on the VIP list. You will get access to the 15 known secrets to getting started as a virtual assistant. You get that by texting. In the original recording, I said the wrong number, so the correct number to text is 345-345. And the words VA Start. That will get you on the list. You'll get the guide. The other way, once you're on that list, what I do is every month, not every month, because it's usually the first week of the month, as long as there's not a holiday. Let's say it like this. Now we're getting into the holidays. As long as there's not a holiday and I can fit it in there, because I know y'all don't want to talk to me. Y'all don't want to talk about work stuff on the 4th of July, for example, right? So if it's not a holiday, June doesn't have a holiday, so we'll be doing a webinar where it's kind of like open access. I've been calling it free webinars, but I need to call it something else, podcast live or something. I got to think of something fun for it. But anyway, this is where you get a chance to ask me questions. We're going to do 30 minutes talking back and forth. You ask me questions and we go from there. This month, we did talking about how to use the skills that you already have to start your business. Because my whole thing is getting you off the ledge, pushing you in there, getting you started, and while you earn, while you learn. Okay, so that's the VIP list. The second way is a more in-depth opportunity for coaching and mentoring, and that's in the Virtual Assistant Business Owner Circle. And you can learn more about that monthly membership on my website. If you go there and you just click on membership, it'll take you to it. My website is tiffanyparson.com. Just click on membership, or if you want the whole URL, it's tiffanyparson.com/VABOC. It stands for Virtual Assistant Business Owners Circle. So anyway, I hope to see you in one of those 2 places. Keep listening, keep watching. I will see you next time. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to write a review on iTunes. That helps me a lot to improve the podcast and to even know that I'm doing a great job. So I would love to hear from you. If you are watching this on YouTube, then you just comment below and let me know from there. Thanks so much. You have a wonderful and fabulous day.